could not care less about Texas, me and you. They created this give me country that don't value hard work. For a Texan to survive, all we need are some seeds and dirt. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country, for it's long gone. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country, for it's long gone. We believe in family and we value our community. Gladly lend a helping hand to a neighbor in need. And we don't believe that government should provide for all of society's needs. No, it's the pride of a Texan to give to others voluntarily. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Gotta save your country, for it's long gone. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Gotta save your country, for it's long gone. They like our tax dollars and they love our natural resources. They don't want to see us driving trucks, they'd rather see us riding horses. And now they want to ban our guns, you know, especially the ones that look scary. But may I remind you of the Gonzales Cannon and the Alamo heroes we buried. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save our country, for it's long gone. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save our country, for it's long gone. This last verse is straight from the Texas Constitution, Article 1, Section 1 and 2. Look it up. Texas is an independent state, yet presently we suffer. We no longer possess the right to locally self-govern. And now it's time as a people in which all political power is inherent. And in such manner we find expedient, we reform or abolish our government. I said, Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country, for it's long gone. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country, for it's long gone.
Hi, good evening, fellow Texians. It is I, Daniel Miller, and I want to welcome you to our Texas First Virtual Candidate Forum. And before I bring on the Executive Director of the TNM, Mr. Nate Smith, I want to thank you all for attending and tell you a little bit about why this came about. The TNM-PAC, the Political Action Committee of the Texas Nationalist Movement, launched our Take Texas Back campaign at the very beginning of last year and began the process of looking for candidates and looking for people that would run for office that supported the ideas and the values of putting Texas first. And so to that end, we launched what was called the Texas First Pledge. And the Texas First Pledge is, and you could see it, you could go to taketexasback.com. Again, that is taketexasback.com. Hang on, I'll put that on the screen for everyone. I said I would, but apparently I won't. Graphics packages, what do you do, right? Anyway, go to taketexasback.com. You can read the pledge. But since the inception of the pledge, a first of its kind pledge. We have had well over 80 candidates for office sign this pledge. It is historic, folks. And as in my role, not as that guy back there on the screen, but as president of the Texas Nationalist Movement and head of the TNM-PAC, I want to thank each and every one of the candidates who put their name on the dotted line and pledged to their fellow Texans that they will place the interest of Texas and Texans first. You cannot imagine how many times we get asked about candidates who share the same values as the people in our organization, and even people that are just kind of supporters, maybe even casual. They want to know who out there shares their values. So tonight, we are in the second day of early voting. And on the second day of early voting, we decided that we had been asked enough that we wanted to do a virtual candidate forum. Now, speaking as currently a candidate for office, I can tell you that as I have traveled the state and visited with candidates at every level, but particularly the statewide and state level candidates, many of us have lamented the amount of travel involved for the very short amount of time that we get to talk about real hardcore substantive issues and really just introduce ourselves. And so, what we wanted to do via this particular outlet is hold a virtual candidate forum. The candidates have all been asked to send in videos, and some of those we will play tonight. The rest, as they come in, will actually be put on the Take Texas Back website at taketexasback.com. And you're going to be able to hear the candidates in their own words, straight from their own mouths. So, without further ado, let me go ahead and bring on the executive director of the Texas Nationalist Movement and one of the people responsible for making this event happen tonight, none other than Nate Smith. Hello, Nate.
Hey, Daniel, how you doing?
I'm good. I feel strangely like I'm playing dual roles tonight as host slash co-host and candidate. So
I believe you are. A few hats. It's kind of how it goes these days, huh?
yeah, look, if the hats were masks, then Dr. Fauci would be happy because I would be wearing 3 of them.
Yes, it might be effective.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, this is going to be exciting tonight, Nate. You and I are going to work through some of the submitted videos for the candidates, and let me tell you, somebody actually sent in an email saying, "Well, why aren't you doing this live?" Well, number one, all of the candidates are out right now, either working the polls out at candidate events or everywhere else. And frankly, having them carve out time to do a virtual, while it might be a little more convenient, we want to try to accommodate these guys as much as possible. Look, all of the people that are featured that have signed the Texas First Pledge are out there absolutely working themselves to death to talk to voters.
Yeah, I mean, I want to add too. We have had over 85 candidates sign the Texas First Pledge. That is a tremendous amount of people committed to placing the interest of Texans first, placing Texas sovereignty first. You're not going to see videos from all of them tonight. That would take a little bit of time. But in order to get a more diverse group of candidates to you, that's another reason why bringing them on live just didn't make sense. We wanted to bring as many of them to you as we could, give them a great presentation. So that's what you're going to see tonight.
Yeah, there you go. Bottom line, and let me tell you, Nate, before we launch into this, if your candidate has not yet signed the Texas First Pledge, it is not too late, right? They can go to taketexasback.com and they can sign that pledge, right, and pledge to put the interests of Texas and Texans first. So. That being said, as we go through tonight, just a little bit of housekeeping. Number one, share. Be sure to, wherever you're watching this, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, man, I can't even remember all of them anymore, Nate. But if you're watching on any of those, be sure to share and help us connect with more Texans. We actually engaged and promoted this in many, many ways. So there are tons and tons and tons of people on here tonight. However, we are only, if you're chatting with us, if you're commenting, we're only seeing it if you're chatting on our YouTube channel or on our Facebook page. So bear that in mind. We cannot always see it. And because these are recorded videos, these guys aren't going to be able to answer your questions, although I'm sure someone will ask. I'm here. Maybe I'll answer your question. Who knows? All right. Without further ado, Nate, let's get down to the first one. Now, the first set of offices that we're going to cover are the governor's race, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
We've had a total of 5 candidates sign the Texas First Pledge: Alan West, Don Huffines, Chad Prather, Paul Blue, and Danny Harrison. So great to see so many of those challengers to the incumbent that are willing to make that commitment where he has not done so. And I think his actions for the last 8 years might imply a little bit about where he truly stands for Texas to begin with. But we've got 2 other videos for you tonight, so let's go ahead and get started with one of them.
Okay, sounds great. We're going to go ahead and kick off with Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. Don't go anywhere.
Hey, greetings everyone. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, candidate to be the next governor here of the great state of Texas. One of the most important things that you have is your body, your life. And you should be making the decisions about your body, not a government, and certainly not a government agency. Here in the great state of Texas, I will never, ever support mandates of vaccines or mandates of masks or anything. What I want to do as your governor is provide you the best information for you to make the right decision. It's so interesting that the progressive socialist left, when it comes to murdering unborn babies in the womb, they always say, my body, my choice. But now we see that, according to them, when it's their ideological agenda, such as you being forced to take a vaccine, you lose that choice and that right over your body. That's not going to be the case in the state of Texas. And I will not stand with any business that says that it is a condition of employment that you have to receive a vaccination. And oh, by the way, if everything was on the up and up, then why do you have to sign a waiver saying that the people that are telling you that you have to take this vaccine, they are not responsible, they're not accountable, they're not liable for any adverse effects upon your body? I want you to have the freedom to make the right choices for your body. The freedom that is based upon our liberties that are designated in our Texas State Constitution and by the laws of nature and nature's God. When I look at Texas as a sovereign state and understand in the Declaration of Independence it says that free and independent states help to create these United States of America. We have a 1,254-mile border that we share with a foreign nation that is really a failed state, controlled by narco-criminal terrorist organizations that we refer to as the cartel. I will secure that border and make sure that no Texan along our border counties is living in terror. We will deploy our National Guard. We will make sure that our law enforcement agencies have the ability to arrest, detain, and deport, since the federal government has abdicated their role and responsibility. We will tax the remittances that illegal immigrants are sending back to their home countries. That's an incredible transfer of wealth. But most importantly, we will designate the cartels as a terrorist organization so that we can go after them and the money they're making. Texas should not be the #1 state in the United States of America for human and sex trafficking. When I talk about ensuring the rule of law, it means that no elected official has the enumerated power to decide who or what is essential in the state of Texas. The most essential thing in Texas is your liberty. And I will not be making unilateral decisions that undermines your liberty. As well, I will not be usurping the authority of the legislative branch. I will stay within the boundaries, the guides, and the rule of law, which is the Texas State Constitution. You will never see me unilaterally making a decision to change election law or any other laws here in the state of Texas, because a governor is supposed to govern. He's not supposed to rule by edicts, orders, mandates, or decrees. When I look at our property tax system that we have here in Texas, it is modeled after 2 tenets of Karl Marx in the Communist Manifesto. First and foremost, it's a progressive tax. Appraisal districts are coming out and increasing the tax on your property. And the second thing is that Karl Marx was all about ending private property rights. You are not owning your home in the state of Texas. You're basically renting it. I want to make sure that you can own your home. I want us to transition away from a property tax here. I want us to look at maybe a consumption-based tax, which is the type of taxation that we had in the United States of America before we implemented the income tax about circa 1917. Some people call it the fair tax, but I think that we have to look at alternatives. But in the meantime, we will reduce the growth and the expansion of the state government, and those savings we can use to put against the maintenance and operations funding for those independent school districts so that we can reduce the burden on your property taxes. But the real goal is we've got to transition away from property tax to a better system, a better way of taxation for you so that you can have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which means owning your own property. When I think about Texas and its richness and energy resources, we're the reason why the United States of America became energy independent. But yet we saw what happened this past February, where Texas looked a lot like North Korea and that we were completely in the dark. We will not allow that to happen again. Texas is blessed to be on its own grid system. And with all the resources that we have here, we will continue to be independent, producing and consuming and even exporting those energy resources. I want Texas to stay strong. Our oil, our natural gas, develop new nuclear power plants, look at how we can rebuild and strengthen our coal fire plants, but most importantly, realize we're the Saudi Arabia of natural gas. We've got to capitalize upon that to make sure that Texas, and indeed America, can be energy independent. I will not be supporting the Green New Deal, and we will reduce our dependence on wind and solar here in Texas because those sources proved not to be reliable energy sources, as you well know. When I think about the importance of family, I grew up in a strong traditional nuclear family. A father who served in World War II as a corporal in the United States Army, a mother who served over 25 years civilian service with the United States Marine Corps 6th District headquarters in Atlanta. They taught me what it meant to be a man of honor, integrity, and character, and they set me on the path that I'm on. I want to protect families here in the state of Texas, and I want to protect our children. I find it unconscionable that we are still having chemical and physical castration of children here in Texas, that we can't get school choice passed, because the key to the equality of opportunity in the state of Texas and in America is a quality education. And we've got to protect our children in the womb and stop the practice of murdering unborn children. When I look at the fact that the second largest facility for murdering unborn children in the world is located in Houston, Texas, yes, Planned Parenthood, founded by a white supremacist and a racist by the name of Margaret Sanger. I want to close down that facility in Houston, Texas, because it's an abomination. And when you think about the things that Margaret Sanger stood for, those lives do matter. And I think every one of us can agree with that. When I look at our incredible state, why would we allow any foreign nation that is our geopolitical foe to have a foothold in the Lone Star State? And that's exactly what we see happening when a former general of the People's Liberation Army of China has bought an incredible large swath of land very near one of the most strategic installations for the United States Air Force, a pilot training facility, Laughlin Air Base down in Del Rio. Why is it that we have ZTE and Huawei, two telecommunications companies that are controlled by the Chinese Communist Party? They have headquarters in Plano and Richardson is one of the growing tech hubs that we have here in the state of Texas. I will not allow foreign entities to come here and influence what is going on in the great state of Texas. We will make sure that we keep Texas protected from those foes that we have, and make sure that a country that has caused so much pain by way of the COVID virus, they do not have influence in the state of Texas. To learn more, visit our website, west4texas.com. That's west4texas.com.
And there we go. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, candidate for Texas governor.
Yeah. And as you probably saw in the video, you can find him at west4texas.com. Next up, I believe we have a video from Chad Prather. And I just want to say, as a part of this, I'm coming to you tonight not only as representing the TNM, or the Texas Nationalist Movement PAC, but also the TNM organization itself. And the organization itself endorsed all of the Texas First candidates, but we put a special emphasis out there for what we call Texian candidates. And these are the ones that got the special level because of some participation they've done, some action they took. They've been members of the TNM, or they've done strong advocacy, or they signed on to HB 1359 in this last session. So they took this very credible public action for it. And one of the things to note is that we endorsed as the TNM more than one of the governor's candidates and at this Texian level. And we've gotten a lot of questions about that and a lot of concerns. But we did that because all three of them, Don Huffines, Chad Prather, Alan West, have all been out strongly answering that Texit vote question, saying that they would support a referendum, help people to get that on the ballot. And so, that's been an incredible opportunity to talk about Texit at each one of these governors' forums. But one thing I want to note, because there's a lot of confusion around this, is people ask us, why aren't we encouraging people to rally behind one particular candidate? Why is it okay to do more than one? And I want to explain at this moment the primary process in Texas, because there's a lot of confusion around it. The way that the primary works is, in order to win the primary outright, you have to get over 50% of the vote as a single candidate. If at any point no candidate gets over 50%, then the top two vote getters go to a runoff. And so if you look at it right now, the incumbent has the biggest chance of getting the largest percentage of votes. But if you're worried about the incumbent, Governor Abbott, getting reelected, then a vote for any candidate besides Abbott takes away a vote from his 50% margin. Regardless of which one of these you choose, there's some good choices out there. And that's the reason why we've looked at multiple of them. But regardless of which one you choose, it's a vote that would potentially put the race into a runoff, and then the top one of that runoff is the opportunity to unite around the proper candidate there. So please understand that if you're choosing one of these or the other, whatever you think is best, that does not threaten the opportunity to unseat the incumbent.
Yeah, that's been a fun one to answer about the primary process. And people are like, you're going to split the vote and throw it to a Democrat. It's like, no, it's not how it works. It's not how it works. Not at all, right? What you were doing in the primary is you were choosing the person that you want to go head to head with the Democrat and other parties in November. That's what you're choosing. So that's how it works. All right, moving right along. Let's go over to Chad. I've had him as a guest on Coffee Talk before, been a guest on his show. And he participated just like Alan and Don did in our governor's town hall. We'll talk about that on the other end of Chad's video. Learn a little more about why Chad's running, why he decided to run for governor.
Folks, my name is Chad Prather, and I'm running for governor in 2022 in the state of Texas. And I'm here to tell you something you don't want to hear. Texas is not the Texas that most Texans think it is anymore. Texas has long been thought of as a red, conservative state that holds small government values. But unfortunately, Texas has become quite blue. And those who call themselves Republicans in Texas politics, by and large, have done nothing to solidify or protect our conservative legacy and foundation. And that includes this current governor, a career politician who's consistently usurped power and made unilateral and even dictatorial decisions that have affected the lives of all Texans. He's grown a government in Austin that is completely out of control. He's been referred to as the most powerful governor in Texas history, and our representatives pander to his every whim. Texas government has become an all-consuming blob that rolls through, absorbing everything it touches. It grows bigger and it moves on to leave us in its wake with no remorse. I remind you of the words of the great Sam Houston, who advised us to govern wisely and as little as possible. The overreach of today's Texas government is ignoring that sage wisdom and is a living reminder of how far we've fallen from Sam Houston's counsel. Now, if a larger government was the answer to our problems, then why aren't our problems solved? Why do so many problems continue to exist and even grow larger? We do not have a secure border. Property taxes are out of control. Our power grid has been mismanaged. We've seen an increase of state spending to the tune of $48 billion in the last 7 years, not to mention the frivolous spending of $295 million on unconstitutional contact tracing. This governor personally oversaw the collapse of a state economy through unconscionable quarantines, mandates, and shutdowns through the extreme mismanagement of the COVID-19 pandemic. You were told you could not go to church, you could not congregate, and many of you, as well as your businesses, were deemed non-essential. and they were summarily shut down, with many going out of business for good. You couldn't even visit your dying family members due to government mandates. You couldn't go to funerals. You couldn't go to weddings. Your constitutional rights have been violated over a dozen times in the last 18 months, and yet we sweep it under the rug and continue to agree with the mainstream media when they refer to this governor as a conservative. Folks, we've been fooled. We've been duped. And in the name of safety, we've sat back as our liberties have been trampled on and stolen. I'm here to remind you that the Constitution was not written to keep you safe, and it was not written to keep you healthy. The Constitution was written to keep you free. As I said, my name is Chad Prather. I'm running as a true conservative Republican to primary this governor in the upcoming 2022 gubernatorial election, and I want to ask for your help in making Texas, Texas again. On March 1st, 2022, we have the opportunity to get government out of our lives. By voting for me in this upcoming primary election, we have the ability to install common sense in Austin. We have a chance to make conservative priorities more than just a legislative footnote. We must reestablish state sovereignty in Texas. We must close our open borders without asking permission from Washington, D.C., which has placed a very specific target on the back of Texas. Now, as governor, I will deploy the National Guard, Texas military forces, and the necessary state law enforcement to seal the border, enforce immigration laws, and deport illegal aliens. When it comes to illegals crossing our border, we must disincentivize the reason that they're coming. Then we must be sure to detect and deter, detain, deport, and at all costs defend our southern Texas border. As governor, I will ensure that through legislation, Texans will not lose their jobs, nor will students be penalized for declining a COVID-19 vaccine. We must enforce the laws that are on the books and stop turning ideologies into policies. Texas must become a constitutional sanctuary state. Texas schools will teach students basic knowledge and American exceptionalism and will absolutely reject critical race theory. We must have a solid plan that immediately reduces and works to eliminate property taxes and maintains a state legacy of no state income tax. We will protect the integrity of our elections by verifying that registered voters are American citizens. We will restore felony penalties and enact civil penalties for voter fraud. We must know that when we flip the switch, our power is going to come on, and we must rest assured that the elected representatives we send to Austin are there to work for you and for your priorities. I will consistently and adamantly defend the sanctity of innocent human life, created in the image of God from fertilization until natural death. As governor, I will advocate to see that the Texit bill actually has its proper place on the voter's ballot, and in so doing, remind the federal government that America needs Texas far more than Texas needs America. This reminder is how we will leverage Texas' power to put our country back on track. Now, as governor, I will stop the tyranny, censorship, and misinformation campaigns against conservatives that has been carried out by big media and big tech for far too long. I will not be bought out by special interests, Silicon Valley, foreign entities, or multinational corporations. And folks, the days of taxpayer-funded lobbyists is over. We will no longer apologize for the things that have made Texas great, independent, and wealthy, such as our legacy of farming and ranching, as well as our great oil and gas industry, which has made Texas a global leader. In 1773, a few of our founding fathers went out into Boston Harbor and began to spill tea into those dark, cold waters. It was a message to King George that his tyranny was overreaching and too much. They knew they were being represented by someone that did not value their lives, much less they didn't want him controlling their future. It's time for the great people of Texas to rise up and send a message to Travis County. It's time for us to have an Austin Tea Party. Let's make the message crystal clear that tyranny will not be tolerated in Texas. Join me. Add your name as one of those who's no longer willing to sit idly by while Texas is diminished and our greatness is stolen. Make Texas, Texas again. Visit Prather2022.com. My name is Chad Prather. Vote for me March 1st, 2022 in the primary race for Texas governor. May God bless you and may God bless Texas.
Well. All right. And that was Chad.
Yep. Find him at Prather2022.com. Prather2022.com. And I'll say this too, for those of you watching on our social media channels, if you go to the PAC's website, taketexasback.com, you can get a complete list of the candidates, find their bios, get access to all their website information and their social media channels. So be sure that's at taketexasback.com.
Okay, superb. And a reminder as we wrap up, we do not have the video here for Don Huffines, but I do understand they'll be submitting one. But look, I would urge any of you to go to the TNM's YouTube channel, excuse me, and look at the virtual candidate forum that we had. We had a virtual forum with all three of them with drill downs on some pretty important questions that all centered around what eventually became the Texas First Pledge. So go take a look at that. It is on our YouTube channel, and we will probably, when this is all said and done, go put a link in the description of this video. So be on the lookout for it. All right. Well, normally we would go next to the lieutenant governor's race. However, I'm here live. I'm here live, so I'm not going to play a video of myself, but instead, what I'll do is I'll just wait till we're all done because I have duties, right? And I'll wait till we're done with this, and then I will speak my piece, and you know, hopefully, I've earned your vote. But moving right along. All right, so tell you what we're going to do next on the hit parade is we're going to go ahead and move on to let's do. I tell you what, Nate. Let's do land commissioner. How does that sound?
Yeah.
Another hotly contested race with lots and lots of candidates. And we've got a couple of great videos in here. Go ahead and give us a rundown of the race for land commissioner.
Yeah. So in this race, you actually have the incumbent, George P. Bush, decided not to run because he's running for Attorney General.
Oh,
no, not many people are very disappointed by that. And I can say one notable thing about this office is that the custody of the Alamo has been transferred in recent years to the General Land Office, and that was one of the notable failures under George P. Bush's reign. There is that this opportunity to reimagine the Alamo and all this concerned around moving the cenotaph and changing the story up, and that's one of the things it's part of our Texas First Pledge, protecting the culture of Texas, including the definition and the way that the story is told around the Texas Revolutionary War, not to be exclusive of other viewpoints, but that is the primary reason why the Alamo exists. And we know this is a critical part of Texas history and world history to a large extent of what Texans did. So in addition to some other things too, you'll see some interesting that the candidates there are also working as how they can utilize that office to help enforce border security, because this office has a lot underneath it. So three of the candidates there have signed the Texas First Pledge: Weston Martinez, Dr. John Spears, and Ben Armenta. And we're going to be seeing videos from Spires. I'm sorry. Dr. John Spires.
I had to be corrected the first time I met him too, which was in a McDonald's in Huntsville, but that's a whole other story. So right, let's roll it. We have videos here from the doc and from James. So let's go ahead and roll it. We'll go first with Dr. Spires.
Hi, everyone. It is good to be with you, even if it is just virtually. It's a real honor. I'm John Spires. I'm running to be your Texas Land Commissioner. Many of you already know me, but let me share a bit of my story that you may have never heard. Now, I share this story because it helps you understand why I know I'm the servant leader that Texans need in the General Land Office. I'm originally a farm boy who wanted to be a heart surgeon. I wanted to train with Dr. Michael DeBakey, and I did. I had planned my life out. I wanted to help people. I went to Duke University on a scholarship, played a little bit of football, got a good education, and worked to pay for medical school. After that, I trained in general and trauma surgery. I joined the United States Army Reserve as a medical student. I was called up for the first Gulf War during my surgery residency. And that war was over before I did much more than pack and unpack my gear, but I'm very proud of my service. I'm really proud of the research that I did in treating traumatic injuries that I know helped our soldiers. I finished my general surgery residency and headed to the Texas Medical Center to become a heart surgeon. The very first lesson I learned was that Texans know they can do anything. I have never forgotten that spirit. Working in the DeBakey Heart program was exciting and humbling, and let me tell you this, that was a long way from the back of the tractor where I started. My dream had come true. I never thought I would do anything else, but God had other plans for me. I was in practice on the coast of Mississippi when Hurricane Katrina devastated my community. One of my hospitals was wiped from the face of the earth. I spent the next year caring for folks in the hospital, but also practicing frontier medicine in parking lots and at shopping centers. I logged months and months manning a chainsaw and driving a bobcat, clearing debris and cutting a forest of trees from my community. I still keep that chainsaw as a reminder of that time. After all of this, I had to have some surgery myself. A fellow surgeon operated on me, and I had a terrible complication that almost cost me my left arm. It left my left hand unable to do the delicate work of surgery. I was devastated. I hit rock bottom. In the blink of an eye, my life had changed dramatically. Now, what would you do? I imagine every one of you would do exactly what I did. You'd pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and you'd start over. I enrolled in law school. I became an attorney. I began helping people in another way. I fought against government overreach, and I helped folks build dreams. I've joined entrepreneurs working to bring critical, essential industry back to Texas so we are never dependent on foreign powers to supply our basic needs. I fought against government meddling in healthcare, and I became frustrated and disgusted when the American Medical Association and other organizations claiming to advocate for folks like you and me sold out to the Affordable Care Act. Like you, I was disgusted when the politicians that we elected assured us that they had a plan to prevent Obamacare, and then they were going to replace Obamacare. And in the end, well, you know what happened. They did nothing. Through all of this, I found myself more and more active in politics. And that's just the first part of my journey. In 2017, after Harvey flooded my home, wiped out the first floor entirely, I was asked to run for Congress. Now, I had no preparation. I had no money. I had no campaign apparatus, and I had no house. So what did I do? I ran. I ran to provide a voice to the people and to offer real solutions. Since then, as part of my law practice and as part of my work with the Republican Party, I've seen how politicians in D.C. and, let's be honest, in Austin, forget the people who put them there. I've known we had to grow our conservative base, so I began traveling the state, helping activists and county parties build their networks and strengthen our conservative voice. Now, while I was working a lot, I was listening even more. I heard people all around the state say the same things. We need folks who are not politicians to run for office. We need folks who won't fail to deliver on the simplest of requests from the grassroots and then make the shallow promise that if elected just one more time, they'd finally get the job done. We need folks to run for office who are not just trying to climb the ladder to an even higher office. I was asked to run for land commissioner by grassroots activists just like you. I'm humbled, but I'm answering the call. I'm here to serve. The land office has several defined duties. The land office operates the Alamo, and I don't have to tell anyone that the GLO can do a better job at managing the Alamo. We're not going to be reimagining any of Texas's history. The land office works with the State Board of Education to manage the permanent school fund. We have 13 million acres that are devoted to the permanent school fund. 13 million acres is 8 times the size of the entire state of Delaware. Every day we'll work to generate excellent returns on these lands while protecting them for the future. We'll do this with transparency and integrity. Our school children deserve this, and we will deliver. The land office serves our Texas veterans. I've worn the uniform. I love the men and women who serve. I've cared for hundreds of veterans at our VA hospitals and in the community. I understand many of the hurdles and challenges they face. The land office will be a willing partner to all the agencies who serve our great veterans. Veterans will have an ally in the GLO when you elect me. Our land office also manages the hundreds of miles of Texas coast. Preserving our shoreline for all Texans to enjoy is very important. The land office will work with and protect the property owners along our coast while making access to the beaches available for all Texans. But coastal management includes not just responding to problems like beach erosion or oil spills in the Gulf. It also means preparing for disaster. The GLO will be an active leader in strengthening our coastal regions to withstand the ravages of hurricanes. And speaking of hurricanes, The GLO is also responsible for helping Texans recover from all sorts of natural disasters, whether hurricanes, wildfires, or flooding. And like many of you, I've suffered greatly during Harvey. My home flooded, my business suffered, and the frustrations of rebuilding a community and a life are certainly no stranger to me. I promise you this, the GLO will slash its red tape and be much more timely and efficient in responding to people's needs. We'll get our paperwork into Washington. And there is one issue that should be on everyone's mind, and I'm sure each of you thinks about this every day, our southern border. Our southern border is not secure. The Land Office manages almost 600,000 acres of land along the southern border. Human traffickers, drug traffickers, cartel members, and suspected terrorists, they all cross at will. The Land Office will work every day to strengthen and protect the border, to protect Texans, to protect Texas. We will succeed. My promise to you is simple. Every day I'll work for you. We'll work to protect and honor our history, build for our future, and we will make a safer, stronger Texas. Don't settle for a pre-packaged politician when you can have one of your own at the helm of our oldest state agency, working for you every day. To do this, I'm humbly asking for your vote, your time, and if you're able, your financial support. Join me in this fight. Go to drjohnspires.com to learn more. Follow the campaign on Facebook. Tell your neighbors about the campaign. And let's send a message to the world that Texas is always going to stay Texas. I'm Dr. John Spires, your neighbor, your friend, and your candidate for Texas Land Commissioner. May God bless each of you, and may God always bless Texas. Thank you.
Two things right out of the gate. Number one, if I'd have heard that at an event, I would have stood up and clapped quite loudly. And number two, I didn't recognize the doc without his trademark cowboy hat.
Yeah, a little different in the video.
Absolutely. So go ahead and tell everyone, how can they connect up with Dr. Spires?
Yep, you can. His website is drjohnspires.com, and be mindful of the spelling. It's drjohnspires.com.
All right, there we go. And of course, you can find a link to all of these candidates at taketexasback.com. All right, let's look. Let's go, and we will watch Weston talk about the GLO and his campaign for land commissioner.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, this is Weston Martinez, your choice for Texas Land Commissioner, coming to you here from one of the properties that we have. And we're just out here enjoying the day, working on some things, checking on some wells, checking on some of the cows, checking on some of the things that we have going on out here. And I tell you what, as Texas Land Commissioner, I know that you got to work as hard as a farmer and rancher to do the job right. And as Texas Land Commissioner, I'm very thankful that I am the one that is blessed with the political, business, farming, ranching, oil and gas, real estate, land development background necessary to do this job on day one. I've even got 5 kids in public school and was previously a private school board president. You know, when we look at taking care of those issues and addressing the complexities that come with, you know, mineral rights, you know, pipeline crossings, ground leases, all the things that come across it. On top of that, being able to take care of and respect our veterans that are in our veterans nursing homes and making sure that we actually are doing the job to protect Texas. No one in the history of running for Texas Land Commissioner has ever made it an issue about securing our border through this office of the Land Commission office. I'm the first one that has done that. Everybody else has copied me, and I'm glad they have and agreed that that is a good, appropriate thing that we can do. Even the current commissioner, George P. Bush, has issued a press release saying that he too would secure the border. And I'm very thankful for all of your support across Texas as we move through into the campaign. The field is now set. We have a great team that's supporting us, a great group of conservative leaders across the state of Texas and also across the United States of America. So get ready for the most exciting race this Texas primary, and that is the office of the Texas Land Commissioner. I'm Weston Martinez. God bless you. Visit our website, westonfortexas.com, and I approve this message. Hi, I'm Weston Martinez, conservative leader running to be your next Texas Land Commissioner. You know, as a native to the home of the Alamo, Texas independence runs deep in my veins, and I can see the threats we face from across the river and overseas. As Texas Land Commissioner, I will fulfill all of the technical duties of this job that I am uniquely qualified for, while making Texas and its citizens as independent as possible. Remember the Alamo. Remember, vote Weston.
All right, folks, and there was Weston Martinez. So great video. And thanks for the messages, guys, both to Dr. Spires and to Weston. They have been tremendous friends to the TNM, to the organization, and have definitely gone out there and made their platforms Texas first platforms.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's great to hear those things like support for Texas independence in campaign advertisement videos. So, and as we mentioned as well, Ben Armenta is also a Texas First candidate for this. Was unable to submit a video in the time frame we had, but I saw someone mention in chat as well that they had encouraged him to sign. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. And a reminder, look, for those candidates that do not have videos tonight, it's still open. They can submit their videos, and we're going to put them all on the website at taketexasback.com. A reminder before we move over to Ag Commissioner, if you are watching this on any of our channels, be sure to share, comment, like, do all the cool things, because that helps us know that we're reaching, and I can't tell you how many thousands upon thousands upon thousands of direct invitations we sent to, and this will go down probably as the most watched virtual event that we have done, and probably from a virtual standpoint, one of the largest candidate forums held in this election cycle. So thank you for your participation. It means a lot to us that we're able to provide these things to you and that you're engaged. Okay, Nate, let's move on to Agriculture Commissioner. Tell us a little bit about that race.
All right. Agricultural race, we also have 3 candidates that have signed the Texas First Pledge. So we've got Kerry Council, James White, and the incumbent Sid Miller that signed. Got videos from 2 of those tonight. The agriculture office is another one that kind of goes overlooked by a lot of people, but Texas agricultural, not surprisingly, is the largest in the United States. We're number 1 at a whole lot of things, and agricultural is certainly one of them. This department has a lot of influence. Some of you know the brand Go Texan that talks about products that are grown and made right here in Texas and have Texas components to them that were made with on Texas soil. So very, very important. That's one of the brands underneath this office. Everything from regulating weights and measures to make sure you get all of the gasoline that you purchased every gallon and things like that. So choose wisely. We got some great candidates for you to pick from.
Absolutely. And a reminder, if you missed it just then when Nate said it, that the incumbent, Sid Miller, actually signed the Texas First Pledge. He is I think, perhaps the first statewide candidate to sign the pledge. So that's
statewide incumbent.
Yeah. I mean, when you've got an incumbent, a current statewide official signing off on the pledge, that makes big news. That is, unless you're the political establishment media that knows if they give oxygen to this fire, it'll get out of control. So just throwing that out there, just a little aside, if that's okay. All right, so let's start off and tell you what we'll do. We'll start with Kerry Council. He is a gentleman that I have got to know quite well out there on the campaign trail. I respect him tremendously, and he, much like James, is out there just running an amazing campaign. So here we go, guys. Let me introduce you to the Kerry Council that I know.
Howdy, Patriots. My name is Kerry Council, and I'm running to be your next Agriculture Commissioner. I'm a veteran. I'm a businessman. I own a real estate investment company. I'm an economics professor. I teach economics at the local college. I'm an Aggie. But more importantly, I'm a dad. That is huge. And I'm a fifth generation rancher. If we keep up the way we're going, we're not going to have anything for the next generation. And that's why I'm running. That's why I signed the first Texas pledge. We need to protect our farmlands. China is buying up all of our land in Texas. That is unacceptable. We cannot have that. We need to secure our border. We need to keep the illegals out of Texas. We need to protect our water rights. Our water rights are going to be the next economic crisis. In the next 5 years, we're going to use 17% more water with the same amount of supplies. Where is it going to come from? Desalinization? Are we going to move water from one area to another? This is something your ag commissioner has on his plate, and it needs to be addressed. We need to control inflationary spending. I'm sure everybody's seen the price of gas. Price of gas has gone up almost 50% the last year. The price of your food at the grocery store, that's gone up 25%. There's some issues that we can do to just curb this inflation. I'm an economist. One of the things that I can address is this economic inflation. There's co-op programs out there that farmers can manage their crops, manage their commodities, and take some of the middleman profit out of that. If elected, when elected, one of the things that I will do is I will honor my Texas pledge. I will see that Texas and the rights of Texas will be put to a referendum. That's my promise to you. Thank you for your time. Carry Council Across Texas. Carry a Council on Facebook. Please follow me. I'm asking for your vote. Carry Council for Texas Ag Commissioner. Thank you.
All right. Great video there. And that was Kerry Council. As he said at the end, Council Across Texas. Understand the spelling of that, COUNSIL, acrosstexas.com. So glad to have some words from him. And next up, we're going to have a video from James White, who is running for the Agricultural Commissioner as well. Many of you are probably heard the name James White before because he was one of the 6 co-authors of House Bill 1359, calling for a referendum on Texas independence. Had that bill passed, you might have had the opportunity to vote on Texas independence last November on some aspect of it. So we're looking forward to getting that vote to y'all as soon as possible. We certainly appreciate all the support that James White has done for the TNM over the years. That's not the only bill that he's supported as a Texas representative, is what he served as. So let's see a video from him now running for the office of Agricultural Commissioner.
All right, here we go. It's James White.
How you doing, my fellow Texians? My name is Texas State Representative James White, and I am campaigning to be your next Texas Commissioner of Agriculture. And let me stress that. Texas State Representative who serves in the Texas Legislature and the Texas House to be your next Texas Commissioner of Agriculture. Texas first, Texas always. As your next Texas Commissioner of Agriculture, I will be a proven conservative that you can trust to protect and secure this great Texas industry called agriculture. It contributes roughly $115 billion to our Texas economy. So therefore, on my first day, Texas first, protecting Texas agriculture first and foremost, I will gather around all stakeholders from the Texas Department of Emergency Management, the Texas Legislature, and all the Texas industry groups. And we will ensure, whether it's man-made or natural, that Texas will be able to respond, to protect, and secure any disaster, any threat to Texas agriculture. Also, first day, we will ensure that we will start the process to ensure that there are no state regulations that are inhibiting or undermining the prosperity and freedom of Texas agriculture. And we will also look at all federal regulations. We will ensure that, one, where there's a federal regulation that provides us the discretion, we will exercise that discretion to the fullest extent, to the extent that we will not comply with the federal legislation unless there is a compelling issue regarding health and safety of our fellow Texans. Those federal regulations that undermine the prosperity of Texas, undermine the freedom of our Texas farmers and ranchers, we will work with our Texas delegation, the Texas Attorney General, and the Texas Congressional Delegation to ensure that Texas opts out and does not impose those unconstitutional constraints on Texas. So day one, we will begin protecting and securing Texas agriculture and abiding by our Texas Constitution to ensure that Texas agriculture remains vibrant and prosperous. Sovereignty. Texian sovereignty means the power to rule. Texas sovereignty is the power of Texans to rule Texas. Our U.S. Constitution guarantees that every state and the inhabitants, the citizens of every state, will have a constitutional Republican form of government, small r. Texas has a constitution, and it has a Republican form of government that is subordinate to the people of Texas. That is a constitutional republic. So we have met the basic requirements of the Constitution. So therefore, in order to maintain the integrity of that commitment, we must maintain Texas sovereignty. What does this mean? First, our borders. Our governor, that is our Texas government, our governor has the authority to repel all invasions. South Texas farmers and ranchers are under siege. They're under siege from transnational narco gangs. Regardless of what the federal government does or does not do, I will continue working with our legislature and governor to ensure that we repel this invasion. This session, the most previous session, I was successful in working with the governor and the lieutenant governor and increasing our border security funding threefold to $3 billion from $800 million. Also, I joint authored legislation increasing election integrity in our elections. As your next Commissioner of Agriculture, Texas Commissioner of Agriculture, I will continue working to restore Texas sovereignty. That means I will push back against any attempt of the federal government to try to confiscate any more land in Texas. That's land or water. I will work with the Attorney General. I will have my own personal means through my campaign account to hire legal advice to push back against these federal encroachments. Also, I will work to restore Texas' role, Texas' primacy over Texas agriculture. Historically, nationally, the federal government has taken more and more control of agriculture throughout this country. I will work with the congressional delegation and the Texas Attorney General, the Texas legislature, to ensure that we are regaining control of Texas agriculture. Without agriculture, we have no country. Without borders, we have no country. And without elections, we have nothing. So sovereignty, we will work to ensure that Texas regains its sovereignty over Texas agriculture.
All right. There was James White, state rep currently, but not running again. Instead, he is running for agriculture commissioner. Nate, why don't you tell everyone where they can connect up with James and his campaign?
You can find him at James White for Texas, and the 4 is not the number, it's spelled out FOR, jameswhite4texas.com.
Yeah, and that's important. When you hear people talking about their domain names for their campaigns, and you hear four, make sure you differentiate because some are number four and some are FOR. So be sure you make that differentiation. All right. So there we go. We've got Kerry Council, we've got James White, and again, those videos will be posted at taketexasback.com, and we get one from Sid. It'll go up as well since he is a signator on the Texas First Pledge. Nate, before we move on, let me go ahead and just remind everyone you can find out more about our efforts to take Texas back, and specifically the Texas First Pledge and candidates who have signed it by going to the website at taketexasback.com. And while you're at it, while you're watching this, be sure to share the link. Whether you're watching on social media, on YouTube, wherever it is, be sure to share, get as many eyeballs on it as possible. And it doesn't even necessarily mean that they have to be watching it live with you, although that's pretty fun because we're watching the chat and I'm watching some pretty lively discussions over there. But, the replays are just as important too, as we found out during the governor's virtual town hall that we had back in November. So there we go. All right. Hey, we're getting down ballot a bit, and I do believe that next up on the list, we're going to have a video from one of the candidates for railroad commissioner. Which, just a note for those of you that are brand new to this, the Railroad Commission has absolutely nothing to do with railroads. Welcome to Texas.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've got two of those candidates that have signed the Texas First Pledge. The video we're going to see is from Dwayne Tipton, and we also have one from Tom Slocum, who was unable to submit the video in time for this presentation. So we're excited to get those to you. And the Railroad Commission in Texas is actually in charge of energy and energy production, oil and gas drilling, things like that. It's a very, very important office, and I guess kind of a next to Agricultural Commission, but as you'll find, they carry a lot of weight. I believe they also run the permanent school fund because of all the oil and gas and mineral rights royalties. So, or they have a close relationship with the permanent school fund. So,
yep, they set energy policy. So we've had two of the major pillars of Texas economy. We've had agriculture, and now we've got energy via the Railroad Commission. And so we present to you a candidate for Texas Railroad Commission, Mr. Dwayne Tipton.
My platform is really straightforward. Texas families first, Texas energy first, and energy independence. Here's what that means. If you elect me, I will ensure that the natural gas grid is winterized and ready for the next winter storm. I will create a task force that inspects these sites to verify that they are weatherized. And if they're not, they will be held accountable. Texans will not be left out in the cold on my watch. I will not pass on $3.4 billion of debt to Texas families like the incumbent did after last year's winter storm. I will overhaul the inspection arm of the Railroad Commission, cutting the cost to the Texas taxpayer. I will drag them into the 21st century, rearming them with data analytics and trend-based inspection protocols. Let's keep Texas energy first. Vote for Dwayne Tipton for Railroad Commissioner. I will support stronger border security and election integrity. As Railroad Commissioner, I will strengthen the power grid by ensuring that the natural gas infrastructure is winterized and weatherized. The next time that low temps are forecasted, I will have a task force created to go out and to inspect these sites, and if they're not ready, they will be held accountable. I'm a fiscal conservative, and I will reduce the cost of the Railroad Commission by dragging their inspection arms to the 21st century, ensuring that their inspections are based on data and trend-based analytics, allowing them to get more inspections done at a cheaper cost to the Texas taxpayer. Another thing that I will do when it comes to oil and gas is I will fight the overregulation of the Biden-Harris administration. I will do more than just write letters to the federal government. We will take a stand and we will push every avenue possible to fight their overregulation to ensure that oil and gas stays healthy and vibrant in Texas. It is far too important in our economy. Last year, they paid $15.8 billion in royalties and taxes to the state of government. It's way too important in our economy for us to have those jobs killed by federal overreach. I'm Dwayne Tipton. Vote for me for Texas Railroad Commissioner. I was happy to sign the pledge. As all Texans, I believe that Texans should have the right to choose in their legislatures and in the rules they follow. So if I'm elected, I will advocate to the legislature that it's put to a vote. There's nothing more Texan than voting for what you believe to be true. Vote for Dwayne Tipton.
All right, there we go. There was Dwayne answering all the questions put to him. And I'm sure you could suss out what the questions were. But let me tell you, Dwayne, in the times that I've been able to visit with him, Nate, that guy probably has forgotten more about oil and gas industry than I have ever known. He is, I mean, he is a walking encyclopedia for oil and gas energy knowledge. It's pretty incredible. So very, very great guy. And so, Dwayne, thank you very much for sending in your video, and good luck on your race, amigo. Let's go out there and win. Okay, Nate. So we are, wow, man, we're getting down to it, right? We're getting down into some of the House and Senate races, huh?
Yeah. I mean, the one statewide race, we had a total of 16 candidates in statewide races across 6 different offices, and that's an incredible turnout. The one that we did not get a video for, there's only one candidate that signed the Texas First Pledge, and that's for Supreme Court Place 9, David Shank, I believe. Is that how you pronounce it, Daniel?
Yep, David Shank.
So, yeah, certainly look him up on the website, find some about him, and we're just super excited to have somebody statewide. So, as we move into the representatives, actually, there's another one that we don't have any videos from, but State Board of Education. We actually have 8 candidates that signed the pledge from that, spanning 4 different districts. I think there are 5 of them on the ballot this time. So, be sure and look up those. We actually have a couple of candidates for each race. So check those out at taketexasback.com. And moving on to the state representatives, we've had 21 state representatives candidates sign the Texas First Pledge across 19 different districts. And, you know, that's not a small number. That's 12.5% of the districts being represented in the Texas state legislature. And that's far more. If we can get these elected that are taking this pledge and this promise to put Texans first, I think that means that a bill like HB 1359 would have more than 6 co-authors, like we were very proud to get last time. It's going to be a whole different session next year in 2023.
Absolutely. Well, I tell you what, let's just take it away. Let's go to right out of the gate. Let's do Charles Turner.
All right.
Hey folks, I'm Charles Turner. I'm your Take Texas Back candidate here in House District 6 in East Texas, Smith County. I was born and raised in Wiley, Texas, a little farming community up at northeast of Dallas. Went to school there, graduated in 1964, went to Texas Tech. Graduated from Texas Tech in 1968 with a bachelor's degree in secondary education and started a career as a public school teacher. Uncle Sam had some other ideas for me, so I had to take out a couple of years, served in the United States Army as an artilleryman. When I got out of the service, I went to Johnson City, Texas, and taught there. In 1979, I moved the wife, 2 daughters, cat, and a milk cow to Bullard, Texas. Took a job teaching at Robert E. Lee High School in Tyler, Texas, and taught there until I retired in 2001. At that time, I took a position in the transportation department as a bus driver and working with student management, and I've been in that position ever since. In 2008, Barack Obama was elected President of the United States. At that time, I got involved in an organization called the Tea Party Movement. Worked with that for several years, and we were able to accomplish some of our objectives, which was to get a majority in the House of Representatives, which was accomplished in 2010. Unfortunately, when we elected those conservatives, they got to the Congress, and we were told they couldn't do anything because they were only 1/2 of 1/3 of the government. That's exactly what they did, nothing. In 2012, the Supreme Court came down with a ruling on Obamacare, and after they had changed the basis on which it had been argued, they ruled it constitutional. At that time, I came to the realization that the Supreme Court would not protect our rights as citizens of this country. And at that point, I joined with the Texas nationalist movement, having met Mr. Daniel Miller during the course of the Tea Party movement. In this last legislative session, a bill was introduced that would have given us a vote on independence. My state representative here in District 6 refused to support that bill, even though the Smith County Republican Party Convention had voted for a resolution calling for an independence referendum. In other words, my representative told us that we could just pound sand. And that was the time that I decided that I should get in the race and give the voters in District 6 an option. Now, I'm not just a one-trick pony. Yes, I want to see a bill introduced to give Texans a vote on independence, but I also want to see legislation passed that will severely limit the governor's authority during a disaster. I think the Texas Disaster Act of 1975 should be amended so that the governor cannot violate Article 1 of the Texas Constitution, that's our Bill of Rights. I believe the property tax should be eliminated. I believe that we should protect our young lady athletes at the college level, not just in high school. I believe that the practice of gender modification, of castrating, of neutering young children in the transgender industry in Texas should be abolished. There are quite a few things that this legislature left undone. And I'm anxious to get to Austin to start working with other legislators to try to clean up some of the mess they left down there. I'm your Take Texas Back candidate, and I believe that we have come to a point where it is time to stand. I'm asking you to stand with me. Thank you.
I love me some Charles Turner. I make no bones about it. What a phenomenal guy.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's great to see him there. I noticed he was wearing his member pin as well, proudly for the TNM. Of course, so was Daniel. Yep, same one, the eye pin.
Where's yours, Nate?
I lost the back of mine. That's why it's not on my jacket right now. But thanks for calling me out.
You started it.
But no, it's great to hear from Charles. It's great to hear him talking about that, what we mentioned before. I mean, of course, this, for those of you who know, Take Texas Back is the program supporting candidates by the Texas Nationalist Movement Political Action Committee, which is an entity controlled by the Texas Nationalist Movement Incorporated. And because I know we've got some folks on here, because we put the word out all over to Texas voters to come join us on this forum. So if you are not familiar with the Texas Nationalist Movement and who we are and what we do, I just want to take a second to go over our mission statement. We work to secure and protect the political, cultural, and economic independence of Texas. So as you'll hear these candidates talking about that on all these different fronts. Obviously, one of the most important things to us, and we love to hear candidates talk about it, and it's a feature in the Texas First Pledge, is getting and winning a referendum on Texas becoming its own nation again. But it goes far more than that. These cultural, the economic protections, all of these things you hear in there, because we've got to make sure that Texas, it protects its sovereignty. We put Texas first in each and every one of these areas. Getting one or two of them does not get the job done. We're still vulnerable. So thank you, Charles, for that. And yes, Daniel's putting up the address there for texitnow.org. So if you want to find out more about what that means for Texas to be independent, for a few of you, that may be the first time you're hearing about the opportunity for Texas to be an independent nation again. And there's a ton of questions that usually come about that as you begin to approach and process that question. Texitnow.org has tons of answers to go with those questions. So go there and search about that and learn all about Texas.
Okay, super. Well, moving right along, we're gonna give you guys a candidate down from the Houston area named Deanna Robertson. Buckle your seatbelt, boys and girls. She is a Spitfire.
TNM out here block walking today, getting to know the neighbors and voters of House District 127. Having a great day. The weather is actually kind of nice today. Enjoying meeting you all. Thank you very much.
All right, and you saw just a little snippet of her out there block walking, some of the endorsements that she's received. Nate, where can they find out more about Deanna's campaign?
You can go to robertson4hd127.com. That is the word for FOR. But of course, the number is 127. So robertson4hd127.com.
All right, perfecto. Okay, moving right along, we guys are going to give you someone that if you've watched our live broadcast before, you may remember the special broadcast we did with a state guardsman named Andy Hopper, who blew the whistle on the anti-extremism training nonsense that was being promulgated to our troops. That gentleman is Andy Hopper. And Andy Hopper is currently running for state representative. So let's give you a look at Andy and his campaign.
Texas is unique. Unlike every other state, ours entered this union as a treaty between two equal nations, the United States and the Republic of Texas. Our flag flies at the same level as the Stars and Stripes because, like the brave souls of 76 who rescued our colonies from Great Britain, our Texian patriots earned their independence in 1836. Our Capitol Rotunda stands upon the seal that reads the words, Republic of Texas. And our Constitution begins with the words that all political power is inherent in the people, and all free governments are established on their authority and for their benefit. Washington, D.C. is neither operating upon our authority or for our benefit. In less than a year, nearly 2 million illegals have streamed across our border. And when the federal government should have stopped this invasion, they have in every way facilitated this invasion by moving these illegals to the hearts of our cities. At the same time, thousands of Texans are losing their job due to medical mandates forced by an overreaching federal government. Our rights in Texas are slipping away. At a time that we needed our elected representatives to stand up and fight, at our very hour of need, our Texas legislators have abandoned their posts. After 4 sessions, we have yet to address the systemic issues surrounding a near-complete grid failure. Our children are still being indoctrinated in our schools, and conservatives are still being purged from our military. Our history is being erased even as our monuments are being torn down. And parents are still allowed to force their children to undergo chemical or surgical castration. This is unacceptable. Texans must elect strong, unwavering conservatives that will stand against the lobbyist-funded establishment in Austin. And that's why I'm running. I'm an everyday Texan, a software engineer, a Texas guardsman, and a conservative activist who's tired of seeing our elected representatives go down to Austin and surrender. I won't surrender. Texas is our home. It is not just our right, it is our duty to stand for the principles of those who died at the Alamo, those who were massacred at Goliad, to stand for Texas, our Texas. Stand with me.
Nice.
There you have it.
Andy kind of said it all, didn't he?
I think he did. He covered quite a bit of it. You can find out more about him at hopper4texas.com, and that's the number 4 this time. Hopper, the number 4texas.com. And any of these candidates, as we mentioned, we've got 21 different candidates running for state representative. There's a good chance there's one in your area. Andy is up in the Denton area. Charles Turner, we heard from, is in Tyler, and Deanna Robertson is in Northeast Houston. So if you didn't find one of those in the area where you live, be sure and check out that complete list at taketexasback.com and learn about the candidates near you.
There you go. Be sure to go check it out and find one near you. Well, look, we are literally, Nate, I think we are 2 videos away from showtime for yours truly, where I have to take off my host hat and put on the candidate hat. Thank goodness the clothes don't have to change. Okay, next up, Nate, is Josh Ham.
Absolutely. Josh Ham.
Howdy. My name is Joshua Ham. I graduated from Hearn High School, live here in the county. 9/11 happened my senior year, so I went and joined the Army, went overseas, went to Korea, Iraq, got wounded in Afghanistan, came back home. I'm a blue-collar guy. I worked here locally, worked for Frac Tech in the oil field, worked for Mustang Caterpillar as a diesel mechanic. I've been trucking. I'm just a regular guy that's fed up because for some reason I keep getting told that we just had the most conservative legislative session we ever had, and my children were forced to put on masks. Our businesses were closed or reduced in how much they could get in. That is not what I call good conservative leadership. The only way this changes is when we start holding people accountable and getting fresh blood in there to actually represent us. I went all over the world and came back here to raise my family. I love it here. But I got to be honest, I don't think that having the same people who created the problem try to fix the problem makes a lot of sense. A big part of the reason why we sat there and elected Donald Trump is because we wanted somebody from outside to come in and start breaking things so that we could have more freedom and sovereignty for the individual. And I just find it incredible to somehow believe that the concepts, the ideas that got us where we are today, where your children and mine are less free today than we were as children, is somehow going to change things. No, you're going to need to actually begin to get different ideologies in place that actually place the citizen of paramount importance.
All right, there you have Joshua Ham.
Yeah, that was an excerpt from a candidate forum where that was Josh's opening, and I got to tell you, I'm pretty sure that after he said that, the moderator yelled "shots fired," but I can't be sure because we don't have the rest of that clip. So,
yeah, well, you can find out more about him from joshuaham.com. That's Ham with 2 M's. And Josh is coming to us from District 12, which is that district in the, basically, I don't know if I'd call it Central Texas, but the middle of the Texaplex. Isn't it great that Texas is so big? We have a triangle of cities that we had to come up with our own term, with our own name in it. So that's the Bryan College Station area. Be sure and check out more about Joshua Ham.
absolutely. All right. Well, we are down to our final video of the night. And that is out there from Senate District 31, And that's going to be Stormy Bradley, who's running for state senate. And let me tell you guys something. I'll tell you a little story before I run her video. I participated in a candidate forum in Amarillo. It was a virtual forum where they had everyone stacked up, literally from governor down to dog catcher. And the state senate race for SD 31 was right before mine. And they asked a question about COVID lockdowns and forced vaccinations. Out of every candidate, Stormy Bradley was the only candidate for SD 31 that gave a Texas first, pro Texas answer. Period. While the rest of them hemmed and hawed and tried to navigate around and thinking about, well, what are people going to think? Stormy laid down the gospel. So kudos to you, Stormy, for giving such a phenomenal smackdown to all of the lily-liveredness out of your competitors. And look, that's a good video setup, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and play the video now.
I had a tough upbringing, addicted mom, abusive dad. I'd protect my brother and sister, tell them to hide under the bed or run across the street. My childhood taught me strength, determination, to always seek justice, and to always do what's right. I graduated from Wink High School and got my nursing degree from Howard College in Big Spring. I also met my husband Tyler, and together we started Metal Solutions, a small construction business that helped me get through school. Tyler and I got married, started a family, and continued to build our business. Today, we have 2 amazing little boys, and I'm the president of our second business, Bulldog Steel. My childhood built my character and strengthened my resolve to make this world better than I found it. It also taught me that if we want something from this life, we work for it. I'm Stormy Bradley, and I'm running for the Texas State Senate to bring that same mindset to Austin. We need lower taxes and better jobs, increased border security, and to protect life. We need strong support for our Second Amendment, our military, and law enforcement. I'm a wife, mother, small business owner, and conservative outsider who's proud of Texas and the United States of America. I look forward to meeting you and earning your vote.
Okay, boom, Stormy Bradley. Okay, now Nate, I realized just then that I tell you what, just these last ones with Andy and Joshua Ham and Deanna and Stormy, can you run down where people can reach out to them, find them? Because I think we forgot to do Josh's website.
No, I did Josh's. Yeah, that was Joshua
Okay,
Ham.
you did.
2 M's, yep. And then this last one was stormybradley.com. That's STORMYBRADLEY.com. So be sure to check that out. Glad to have so many great candidates. And, Stormy's running for the state senate. We have a total of 6 candidates that have signed the Texas First Pledge running for the state senate, each from different districts. The Senate has fewer seats than the House, so that actually makes up 20% of the Senate seats or races that we have candidates that have signed the Texas First Pledge. So more credible news to see this. She said at the end she's a conservative outsider, and we've seen that from a lot of the candidates we have. They consider themselves outsiders, but at the rate we're going, Texas First and Texas Sovereignty is going to be the new establishment. So. And that can be in a good way, not a bad way.
Well, and I go back to, when we first started talking about this and, recruiting candidates and things of that nature, and the announcement that we gave to the members and supporters of the TNM was from that moment forward, it was going to be a challenger in every race. We were going to build it so that every election, every seat challenged in every election, I believe is what specifically was said. So this is it. We are, I got to tell you, we're off to a banging start. So much so that the media has freaked out, and they don't want to talk about it. Although they called and asked for interviews about it, they don't want to print it because they see what's happening here. And obviously, what's happening here is the people are rising up to take their government back, to break the back of the political establishment. One common thread that I heard all throughout every one of these was everyday Texans like you and I hearing the call, seeing that Texas needed help, and rising to answer that call, and stepping up to do things that they wouldn't otherwise have done. And I got to tell you, it will be so refreshing to have Texans like us in positions of government that are not these political establishment types. But we know, Nate, we know what that takes, right?
Absolutely.
Article 1, Section 2.
All political power is inherent in the people. Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking back through all 4 of those videos. Not one of those people were a lawyer, which is very typical among the establishment politicians. They've all served in this legal capacity. You've got from small business owner to currently a bus driver to, these are your everyday Texans, ones that didn't want to run for office, like you, Daniel, not on your game plan to run for office, but you got the call. And they got the call. We reached out to the ones that watched this video. This is conversations with the Take Texas Back program that they signed up for, and we said, we need you to run for office. I know this isn't your thing. I know you're not I don't know if any of them have run for office before. We certainly have some that are on our slate, but with a lot of these representatives that we got to sign up and support, it's their first time, and that's an incredible step. That is exactly how Article 1, Section 2 gets honored in all political power being inherent in the people. Especially these legislative positions, they're supposed to be representatives. There's a reason they only meet once every 2 years for a regular session. There's a reason they're not paid a salary. There's a reason they have to have a full-time job in Texas, and that's because it is supposed to be accessible to everyday Texans to be a representative for their fellow Texans, not make a political lifestyle a career in Texas. So,
bottom line. All right. Well, look, that brings us to the end of the videos, which means I guess it's time for the thing that I was supposed to do because I didn't send in a video. So let me slip into candidate mode real quick because I could just sit here and you know how I am, visit with our people all day long. I mean, I love visiting with our people. But for those of you who don't know me, my name is Daniel Miller. I'm a 6th-generation Texan. I'm a husband, a father, a technology consultant. And in 2005, I founded an organization that called the Texas Nationalist Movement. In fact, the organization that is hosting this tonight, which since then started in a room with a handful of people and grew to become the largest political advocacy organization in Texas, outside of the 2 major political parties. I have written 2 books, one of which is called Texit, Why and How Texas Will Leave the Union. It is a 4-time bestseller, and it has been just a phenomenal ride watching what that thing has done. But that was not just what it took to write that book. It was really the culmination of 25 years of a love affair with Texas. With a love affair with the belief that Texas could do better than it is doing right now. A love affair with Article 1, Section 1 of the Texas Constitution, which says that all political power is inherent in the people. Excuse me. Article 1, Section 2 says that. Article 1, Section 1 says that Texas is a free and independent state. See, this is what happens, right? I was literally just talking about Article 1, Section 2, but Article 1, Section 1 starts off with the words that Texas is a free and independent state. And that is in our Constitution right now. And it seems for so long that so many, especially those in the political class in Austin, Texas, have forgotten those key words, that Texas is a free and independent state. But additionally, what they have forgotten is what I said a moment ago, which is Article 1, Section 2, that all political power is inherent in the people. And so on August 24th, 1996, I crossed what I refer to as that proverbial line in the sand. That moment where going from my humble upbringings in Northeast Texas and, political engagement on all things federal to understanding and realizing that the hope to secure freedom in our lifetime was independence. Those words in Article 1, Section 1. So from that day to this, I have devoted my entire life to seeing Texas as a free and independent state, free, independent, and self-governing in every way, or until the grave digger pats me in the face with a shovel. And in that journey, I have become intimately acquainted with not just what makes Texas great and not just how Texas could be greater, but how the greatest obstacles that we have to achieving freedom and independence in Texas lie not from an enemy outside of our gates, but from an enemy inside our own living rooms, our own capital, right? It has become abundantly clear that Texas has a leadership problem. When it comes to issues like respecting Article 1, Section 2 of the Texas Constitution in the Texas Bill of Rights, and giving the people of Texas a vote on whether Texas should reassert its status as an independent nation, or whether it's something as fundamental and common sense as securing the border and treating it like the invasion that it is, or whether it's something as easy a moral choice as eliminating property tax so that we can stop kicking people out of their homes and we can return private property back to the people of Texas. You see, we have a significant leadership problem here in Texas, because if we didn't, I wouldn't have to run. If we didn't have a leadership problem here, our border would be secure. Our property taxes would be zero because they would be non-existent, because property taxes are immoral. And Texans would have long ago gone to the polls and answered the question on whether or not Texas should reassert its status as an independent nation. We wouldn't have to debate and wring our hands over whether or not people should be able to give sex change operations to their children. We wouldn't have to do so many things, but yet here we are. And tonight, during this entire presentation, you heard key issues related to the sovereignty, the safety, the protection, the strength of Texas. You heard these things, not just from candidates at the governor's level or now the lieutenant governor's level, but from candidates for things like the agriculture commissioner, right? Or the railroad commissioner, or the land commissioner, and virtually every single one of the legislative candidates. You heard the same themes. All throughout, you heard the same themes. And much like all of them who are not career politicians, who have no interest in ascending some career political ladder, neither did I. Because since 2005, as head of the Texas Nationalist Movement, as we have grown this organization and propelled it forward, never taking a step back, to the point that now 85 candidates, including sitting state officials, have signed a Texas First pledge. The fact that in this session we got legislation filed to give us a vote on Texas. You would think that I would be happy doing that, and frankly I was, because we are moving the issue of Texas independence further and faster than we ever have before. But at the very beginning of this last year, as I was touring around in support of that legislation, which I wrote, I kept getting asked if I would run against Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. And first, as you've heard me say before, that ask was weirdly specific. Very strange, I thought. But as I began to look back on Dan Patrick's record, it was not the first time that we had a philosophical disagreement, you might say. Even written in the book that I showed you a moment ago, there is an incident that when he was a state senator, when threatened by the Obama administration, he folded like Superman on Laundry Day, just from a threat from the Obama administration, and withdrew a piece of legislation while giving some sort of fiery rhetorical speech, but in the end capitulating. And I thought to myself, when did the phrase "come and take it" change from a statement of defiance to the terms of our surrender? But then, as I continued to be asked, it all culminated in an open letter that was submitted by many grassroots organizations and activists, some in the TNM, but the vast majority not, specifically asking if I would run against Dan Patrick because they believed that I could do the job. And it's specifically because I did not want the job that they believed that I could do it. But more than that, they believed that my years of service and dedication to Texas, where I always worked to put Texas first, would mean that as lieutenant governor, I would absolutely have a mindset that no lieutenant governor has had in probably generations. Because you see, at my core, I believe in Texas. I believe in the precepts and the principles of the Texas nationalist movement. I believe that Texas is great, but I think it could be greater. I believe that Texas has the opportunity as a free, independent, self-governing nation to be a beacon of freedom and independence for the rest of the world. And I don't say that as hyperbole. Because you see, in all of these years that I have gone out and promoted Texas independence, I hear from people in other states, other countries around the world who look to us, who know our history of independence, of freedom, of defiance in the face of tyranny. And they look to us and they say, set the example. And so when you hear establishment politicians say, I believe that Texas should lead but not leave, understand that the leadership that Texans are looking for and that the rest of the world is looking for is for Texas to stand for principle, even if it means standing as a self-governing independent nation. And so at the end of last year, I announced that I would be running for lieutenant governor, and run I have. And I do so not because I ever saw myself becoming a lieutenant governor. Was not in the cards for me. But I did it because I was asked to. Because when the call to serve Texas comes, people that have a Texas first mentality answer. And I could say that in all of those years of perseverance, in the hard times of advancing and holding high the banner of Texas, this has been one of the most difficult things that I have had to do. And I'm going to tell you something. I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it because the harder they make it, the sweeter the victory is going to be on the other end when we deliver on our promises to restore the people of Texas back to their rightful place in the Texas Capitol. Back when we make the words of Article 1, Section 2 mean something again, when it says that all political power is inherent in the people, and we show them just exactly how powerful we are, it will be oh so sweet, and everything will be worth it. But I say this, I could tell you, go to my website at texansformiller.com, and you could see where I stand on so many issues. But where I stand on policy is one thing, but it's where my policies stand and the principles that those are based off of. That tells the true story. And the true story is this. The true story is this, is that I firmly believe with all my heart, mind, body, and soul that the next 100 years of Texas history are being written right now in the coming weeks and months. And it's going to be an opportunity for us to show what we're made of. Are we going to be the Texans of old? that stood up in a legacy of freedom and independence? Are we going to be the ones that save Texas? Are we going to be the ones that rose to the challenge? Are we going to be the generation that lost Texas? Well, I will say this. I will not go down without a fight. I will not go down and let Texas surrender to an overreaching federal government, a bunch of neo-Marxist social engineers and globalists who would rather see Texas ground to dust than see us stand up and hold high the light of liberty. So, I present myself to you. I thank you to every one of you that so far has supported our campaign. I thank you to every one of you who have talked to a friend, who have talked to your family members, who have printed up your own literature, who have gotten signs, who have volunteered, and especially on the second day of early voting to those of you who have already cast your vote. Your vote is precious to me, as it should be to you. And so for you to entrust me with your vote and your confidence, I will not let you down. I will not fail, and I will not betray your vote or your trust. Because in the end, it's important for us to understand that we are Texans, and together we are going to live up to those words of Article 1, Section 2. And we are about to show the political establishment and the powers that be just exactly how powerful we are. Again, you can find out more information about our campaign at TexansForMiller.com or DanielOMiller.com. And we're all over social media. But please, consider me for your vote for Lieutenant Governor. And when you vote, bring a friend. Bring 2 friends, bring 10 friends, but all make sure they're alive, because you're voting in the Republican primary, not the Democrat primary, right? All of your friends must be alive and registered to vote that you bring to the polls. But that said, do everything you can to spread the word, because at the end of the day, the victory in this election rests solely on all of us. It's not something I could do alone, but together we can do it. So with that, Mr. Smith.
Thank you very much, Daniel.
That concludes my candidate statement with a cameo by a house cat.
Oh, I saw that. Didn't want to be left out.
What do you do, right? What do you do? You know,
everybody needs their 2 seconds of fame, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, this one's really bucking for some model dollars. He's not getting an appearance fee. It doesn't matter how he negotiates. Okay, so that's our wrap up for tonight, Nate.
Yeah, thank you everybody for tuning into this, whether you're joining with us right now live or whether you're watching the replay. We're so excited to bring this slate of candidates to Texas to choose. We've got just under 2 weeks of voting. Like actually 2 weeks from today is the actual election on March the 1st, but you can go out and early vote right now if you want to get those in. Make sure you check every race that you vote for. Each race that you vote for counts. Choose the right candidate. Don't choose a familiar name, but I'm probably preaching to the choir if you're watching this presentation, so thank you all so much for that. You can find out more about each one of these candidates and all of the 85 plus candidates who signed the Texas First Pledge at taketexasback.com. And that's exactly what we're setting out to do, to take Texas back from the political establishment. We had some phenomenal videos, lots of good things. You're seeing your interests as Texans put first, your sovereignty, your security, and most importantly, your liberty is what is being put first by many of these candidates, and that they were all required to commit to that as a part of this Texas First Pledge. You know, I know it's scary voting because you've probably been burned before like I have and voted for someone that didn't do what they said they were going to do once they got into office. But let me tell you this, the more firm of a commitment you can have to them, we as the TNM are going to do everything in our power to hold these people accountable to the promises, to the commitment, to the pledge that they made to you with this Texas First Pledge. And we need your help too. So if you want to go to tnm.me and volunteer, we certainly could use your help volunteering, because This process does not end. The primary election is one step. The runoff election is going to be another step, and November is another step. But let me tell you this, if you got excited tonight hearing from these folks and you're thinking maybe I should be running for office, right there at taketexasback.com, there's still a candidate interest form. This doesn't stop with this election cycle. This continues on. So if you're interested in being a candidate, go ahead and fill that out. We need more candidates for the 2024 election, or if you're one of the more local elections that might occur in between then. So go ahead and get that signed up. But work with us. Plan on working with us not throughout just the election process. Once you cast your vote in November, this isn't done. Then we have the legislative session that we need to hold our representatives accountable, and you're going to see a huge presence from the Texas Nationalist Movement holding the officials accountable to their Texas First pledge that they made. We'd be glad to have you there with us, working to make sure that they honor their commitment.
Okay. Fantastic. Well, Nate, that is a wrap for tonight. As Nate mentioned, you can head over to taketexasback.com. There you will see a list of the candidates. Plus, as we get more videos from the candidates, we'll be posting them there. And you'll get a chance to get to know some of these guys and gals. I mean, the fact of the matter is we have got some phenomenal candidates, and they deserve to be seen. They deserve to be heard. And all of you who joined us tonight, you were a part of making that possible. So I will say this to those of you watching now and on the replay: be sure you share this video no matter where you find it. And I'll extend an invitation. Tomorrow night will be tomorrow night will be a special middle of the or kickoff for early voting edition of Late Night Coffee Talk. So for those of you used to seeing me there, you can see me there. In the meantime, I will leave you with the words that I end every broadcast with. And they are the words of Sam Houston when he said that Texas will again lift its head and stand among the nations. That time is now. And the question is, will you stand with her? Good night, everyone.